call the Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, Don Randall was a life enhancer. He was one of the great characters, one of the great indelible personalities that all of us encounter far too few of in our lives. He made everyone that met him more invigorated, more exhilarated. He was an exciting, electric personality. He was a remarkable grassroots politician. I don't say that in a technical way. His motto was, of course, "You talk, I listen," but he really, really practiced that. Every politician says, "You talk, I listen," but Don Randall really did. And on the various community forums I attended with him over the years in Mandurah and Champion Lakes and numerous other gatherings in Perth, you could see that he absorbed the wisdom of his community, he absorbed the needs of his community, and his brain was always thinking as to how to find a solution. This was particularly so in the communications area, with the melancholy fact of life was that the construction of the national broadband network in Western Australia essentially collapsed under the previous government, with the contractor essentially imploded and virtually nothing was done. It was hugely disappointing, and it took some time to get it cranked up again. But Don was very alert to the needs of his community in that regard, and he took me out again and again, both before we were elected and afterwards, to make sure that I understood the granular requirements of his community, and left me in no doubt as to the urgency of the matter. And needless to say, the construction of the national broadband network in the electorate of Canning accelerated following the election of the Abbott government, and it was in very large part due to Don's advocacy. He set a great example for all of us. Many of his colleagues have spoken today about some of his more outrageous statements, and he could sometimes be very colourful. But I think he set us all a very good example, not simply in his focus on his community, for which he was rewarded with continuing and increasing electoral success, but on his focus on his family. All of us have talked to Don about many things. I've listened to his passions and concerns and shared them on whether it was on Cuba, for example, where, of course, in foreign relations, I refer to the Foreign Minister here, he was way ahead of his time. I mean, as we've seen, Obama is restoring diplomatic relations with Cuba. Don would have told him to do that years ago. So he was absolutely Don Randall had diplomatic relations with Cuba well ahead of the United States, and he was ahead of his time there. But there was nothing of which he spoke to me or his colleagues with more passion or more pride than his children. Tess and Elliot, you have lost a father, and it's a terrible thing to lose a father in the prime of life. It's a dreadful thing. We should all lose our fathers when they are very, very old men, when they're old men and they've had a great innings. He was taken from you in the prime of his life. But you know, he was never, ever lacking in a focus, a pride, a passion for you. You know, it's so easy in public life, and we all know this. It's a terrible trap, this business. It's so easy to get distracted with the events of the day and the momentous things that go on here and the debates and the media and all of that stuff. But Don was always focused on his family, and above all, and his wife Julie. But he loved you so much, as you know, and he talked about you but those two children of yours, he was so proud, so very, very proud. And he'll always be proud, whether wherever Don is, he will be so proud of you. So look, he was a great man, Mr. Speaker. He was. We all miss him. He was absolutely authentic. And you know, in many respects, family, love of his community, service of his community, and above all, being nothing other than himself. There aren't many more things that a good man can do in his time allotted. That's what Don did. We miss him deeply, and we cannot plumb the depths of your grief, but all of us in our own way know how you feel, and you know, as you've heard today, that you have the love of all of this house in your suffering, and that love, I trust, will help you regain the strength that you need to live as Don would want you to do. Farewell, Don Randall, a great Australian.